Oh my God.
I should be an underdog. Like, I've put big goals out on paper solely because that's what it takes to do the type of training necessary to give yourself a shot. And at that start line, even saying this, I need to think I can be a dude for a day and show up and, who knows. But I like being the underdog. I've been the underdog for 18 years. And maybe I became an overdog for just a second there. But I'm back where I'm comfortable. I'm back in the grind.
So welcome to the world famous Niwot High School track. It's the home of the Cougars, which is exciting for jokes. But it's not just the home of the Cougars, it's also the home of so many professional athletes where they do most of their training. So we'll see who's out there today. You might just see a few Olympians. It's always really motivating because on this track you've had Olympic medals earned, you've had Western States victories, you've had so many more champions have their proving ground. And so I'm excited to show you guys a little bit of track work. So why am I at the track? I'm training for 100 miles and I'm trying to be, one of the best 100-mile runners of all time. And I'm going to be doing laps around a little 400 meters. So what's that about? It all gets back to what we talked about in the very first episode of this YouTube series, which is that speed is everything, right? I'm 36 years old and at the start line of Western States in just a couple months, I'm going to be 37. And the one thing that I might be able to have at the start line that's different than some of the competitors is that ability to access top-end running economy that will let me, when things get really hard, have a higher floor. So our theory is that the floor is a certain percentage of that ceiling, and if you're able to fuel enough, you raise that ceiling high, that floor will end up being, what ends up determining who succeeds in the last 50 miles of the race. So doing 400s at the track today, basically, it's my way of saying that this is kind of on vibes, even though we're at the track. I'm going to be taking some splits just to tell a story. But if I was normally doing this, I would actually not take splits at all. On a solo track workout, I would just kind of run it on feel because I'm not training for the track. And I coach, world-class track runners, and, we dial in splits to the half a second. But for me, what this is about is the mechanical stimulus, the actual power and speed, rather than the aerobic side. On the aerobic side, it's just hard. On the mechanical side, it's trying to work on relatively smooth speed in a controlled setting that will let me kind of set it and forget it and get a high amount of work in a motivating setting. So I can't wait to bring you through it. Okay, so what is the session today? We are going to be doing 20 by 400 meters. In between each, we'll do 60 to 90 seconds of recovery, and then every 4 we'll do 2 to 3 minutes of recovery. Again, because this is vibes-based, the recoveries are kind of random. I'll be talking to the camera, hence the leeway there. And the mission is just to get into every single subsequent interval feeling like I'm ready to go. I'm not training for a 5K, so I don't necessarily care about the exact splits. You're amazing. Great job. Their warm-up is faster than my 400s, basically. Okay, so with the 400s themselves, the way I'm going to flow through it is I'm generally going to think about the Western States course just as a way to ground myself in quite a long session where each interval is about 5 miles of the Western States course. I'm just going to remind myself of that, modulate effort a little bit, maybe throw in a few faster ones here and there, generally thinking 68 to 70 seconds per 400. Maybe doing some faster, maybe doing some slower. Kind of going to see what I have today, given that, I'm a little sleep deprived and had an amazing training week last week. So I think the final reflection before we get going on the warm up here is coming off Big Alta 50K. Obviously that was a disappointment, but things have flowed great. The ankle, like I said, it's going to heal fast. My ankles always do. It's fine. I think the 50K was the most wonderful thing to happen and an absolutely essential part of this process. So Going into that race, I wanted to see if something had fundamentally changed, where I had evolved from where I'd been from the last 18 years into like the transcendent next level that only a few athletes reach. You know, the Jim Walmsleys, the Eli Hemmings, the Olympic track type athletes. And I was starting to feel it in training, right? And what that race taught me is I'm not there. And I don't need to be there, but it's essential to know that I cannot run the race of athletes who have reached that next level if I want to have the best result and outcome possible. I need to run my own race. And that's a comforting thought, right? Like last year, I won International Trail Performance of the Year and was voted 4th best trail runner in the world, not because I'm one of those dudes that's at that top level, but because I am a guy, just a normal guy, who has worked my ass off for a really long period of time to optimize the things that I can control. Doing work like this track work that's a little bit non-conventional, doing all the little things that we've shown you over the course of this series. And so this is the story of a guy trying to become a dude. And it's okay to be a guy. And I fucking love that, right? Like that's why I hope my story resonates with people. It's not because this all comes easy to me. It never has. But over time, I've gotten to the point that I can have those dude days, that my peak might just reach that level. This isn't the type of thing that I can take for granted or imagine that I'm just going to stick on Jim Walmsley's heels, you know, who's the ultimate dude. It's like, no, absolutely not. Or Killian's or whatever. It cannot work like that. It has to be, I'm going to run my own race. I'm going to use my skill set. And hey, maybe on the right day, I can become a dude. We'll see though. So let's see a guy do some work. So I'll do my little ankle weight joggy jog and meet you back in the car and then do my little 3 or 4 mile warm up. Director Cody just said, it's always the motivational speech and then the slowest jog you've ever seen. I feel like that's the perfect summary of the vibes I hope to bring. Woohoo! Feeling good. Excited, also dreading it. Classic. And maybe the best part, my track, porta potties on both ends, open to the public, only in Boulder. This is just for pro athletes, I'm pretty sure, because it's like manna from heaven. So this is like, who's it, Superman goes into the telephone booth to come out as like a superhero? That's what I'm doing right now. I need to go from a guy to a dude, and this is the path. Oh, hey. I just realized that Cody, my mic was on in there. Science and Sport Beta Fuel Gel, just to get some calories in. I just had a terrible realization that it tastes ever so slightly like the cleaning products used in porta potties, at least like they smell. So I'm gonna leave you with that to haunt your dreams. Okay, let's go get our stuff. One of my favorite things about running on the track is just how there's like nowhere to hide from the sensations, right? Like, you know, I'm hoping to be controlled, but just realistically, like when you're training for a 100-mile or going to the track, or even when you're training for the track, going to the track, there's just that state where you're like having to occupy a place of being a little bit uncomfortable. And that's so similar to 100 milers. So this is much about the psychological end and just getting comfortable with that and then sharing it with, you know, some of the best athletes in the world who are out here right now doing work. I can't wait. Oh, maybe even most exciting of all. This is the debut, I believe, of the green shorts. They've been through a lot. Wore these for the Leadville 100, where they got a somewhat unfortunate stain on them. But then rolled them back for the Javelina 100. They're magic shorts, Not only are they the most comfortable shorts I've ever worn, they have storage capacity in here. I actually ripped them on some during those races, and I'm gonna sew them up before Western States. But the big problem is during Big Alta, I didn't wear them. Why? Because I couldn't find them. It's called being a little bit overwhelmed with parenting. And I also learned that for the next one, the little things matter, even if the little things are kind of fake, like, the power of the green shorts or whatever. It's like, last year wasn't a mistake. It was something I worked my ass off to for 18 years. And, it's okay to go back to the goofy guy who ran his dick off and made some history. So hopefully no dicks are harmed in the making of this video. What a stunning day. I've been here the last 2 weeks for bigger workouts, or longer interval workouts, and it was incredibly windy. Today it's relatively still. So a blessing. All right, let's go up here and start. Always get a run and start. Here we go. '65. Oops. That starts with Cody's fault. He was running beside me, making it look effortless. Okay, so that was up the escarpment at Western States. You need to go a little harder, so the 65 is fine. Now we're gonna settle in to a reasonable, for me, pace. But as you can tell, I'm not breathing too hard from it, so that's good. All right, 1 minute recovery on that one.
There's this website called Defector that I love so much. Some of the writers on there, in particular David Roche, have this framework of guys and dudes. Dudes are like the Hall of Famers that just come onto the scene and crush it. We're talking, if you're a baseball fan, Ken Griffey Jr. And in running, we're talking Jim Walmsley, Grant Fisher, those types of people. The guys, you might remember fondly, but aren't necessarily, the Hall of Famers right off the bat. But the guys can show up and show out sometimes.
There we go, 67. All right, so looking to settle in a little bit more around there. We're in the high country at Western States. Main goal is not to bust up my ankle. All right, right around a minute. There we go, let's look for 68.
Last year, I was able, through so much hard work, 18 years of stacking bricks, to show up and show out in ways that blew my mind. And the reason it surprised me is because I know the context. And I think a lot of people, especially people that might watch videos or listen to podcasts, the exposure increased so much, and there was this expectation that, dude's just gonna go out there and do dude things like dudes do. That's not me, right? My talent was never the type of talent that shows right away. For me, it took time, and it took bricks and stacking them.
66. Good problem to have. Going out a bit too fast, but you gotta be careful. Don't want that at Western States. Yeah, I just feel really good today. Reminds me a lot of how I felt before Leadville, actually. Maybe better. Slow it down, David. You're a coach. Don't be a dick. About a minute.
And so what you saw at Big Alta, where I put myself out there in a way that was really vulnerable and then failed in a very embarrassing, kind of hilarious way, that is the story of my athletic journey. And I think a lot of people that might be coming onto it more recently, including my own brain and its availability bias, thinks my story is what happened last year. But I think that what happened last year, that's not very interesting. I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting if you know the context, but a dude winning, that's what dudes do. I'm more interested in the guy winning.
66. All right, now 2 minutes after every 4. All right, so what do you have? 65, 67, 66, 66. Slow it down a little shorter than 2. 140, it's okay.
I'm settling into the fact that, like, all right, now we have a little over 2 months, and I'm going to work my ass off. Because if there's anything I've learned over the course of those 18 years, is that I might be a guy in a, 50K or a 5K or whatever when things aren't that hard. But you make things incredibly hard, whether that's at altitude, like Leadville, or in record heat, like Javelina, or, in this pressure cooker environment, like Western States might be. You make things really hard. I might be a dude when it's hard. And I know that that's like a double entendre euphemism waiting to happen.
All right, so halfway, we're in the canyons. Director Cody reminded me that we have a whole storytelling piece here. Not just some dude running 66s. At altitude, by the way. So after this one, I'll be coming into the mile 55 Michigan Bluff aid station. It's kind of where the rubber starts hitting the road.
Once it started to flow, it was a helpful metric to think about the Western States course, because in breaking it down into 5-mile increments, it just kind of broadens out the horizons.
Okay.
And I think that's a way to think about hard things in general. Is it's easy to get blinders where your eyes just kind of become narrow slits. You're almost like a horse at the Kentucky Derby. And at least for me, I want to open it up, because in doing that, some of the power of like the sensations of fatigue lose their ability to just kind of overwhelm your desire to do a thing. Just to zoom out and be like, all right, I don't need to get overwhelmed by this. Yes, I started in 65. Yes, I settled in at like 1,000,066s, but that's fine. And you could just keep doing this all day if you had to.
66, 66 again, 66 again, 66, and 66, 65, bang, bang. Accidental 65. I got excited by the whole Michigan Bluff thing. Key is not to think about the end when you're in the beginning. I don't have 9 to go. I have 1 opportunity. And hey, I'm almost 37, out at the track running 66s. If you told me I'd be doing this 15 years ago, I said, you're shitting yourself. I could never do this. It's way too fast. Guys evolve.
The only reason I'm progressing now into 36, 37 years old is because every single week I'm reinforcing this power metric so much. If I was just doing threshold work every week, guess what? I'm not the dude with the sky-high VO2 max. So my threshold work will just get slower with age as my power goes down. And I would be, adapting to a level that is less than I am now. So by doing this, by really reinforcing the power metric, I can go do threshold work and get that type of stimulus, and it'll be faster than it would be otherwise.
Popping a gel. You burn through all your local muscle glycogen stores so fast on this type of thing. 12 down, nice run into Forest Hill, the mile 62 aid station, most special place in the world. If you're out there and you're thinking about coming to Western States just as a pilgrimage, Forest Hill's the place to go. I've coached there every year for the last 6 years, including a couple wins of our athletes, so can't wait to be there. Here we go.
I'm on a mission, not just as an athlete, but as a coach, to show that what we thought were age-based limitations in an athlete's ability to go fast end up just being power-based limitations that stem from interpolating training theory from dudes with sky-high VO2 maxes to everybody else, and then applying it, to 35, 40, 50, and beyond. What happens instead if from 20 or whenever an athlete hears this message, we can reinforce power through hill strides, speed work, hill work, and incorporate that into a broader aerobic framework? What happens then? And what I think is the power metric, yeah, you might just barely increase it, right? Like you're just kind of going like this. But then on the aerobic metric, it's going like this. And it's getting a boost from the power metric. And then eventually, you're over top of the wall.
65. All right, on to Cal Street. The fastest part of the Western States course, if you're alive, and I will be. I'm also running it back at Leadville this year. If you saw the last video, you know why that race is special to us. And this year's a celebration, right? Like, I don't know how much of this I have. Like, you never know when your time's up, both as an athlete and just as a person. So, lean into that. Best athletes on the planet right here. Say hi to Colleen. She's still going. All right.
When I ran past the Tin Man group that was out there on the infield, every so often, one of them would just yell, "We love you," or "I love you." And they're not making fun of me. These are genuine people who have permission maybe to say that because they've heard me say things like that. But like, that's the type of energy that I call on. And then Colleen Quigley out there was saying something kind every single lap, even when she was in the middle of her workout. This is an Olympian. That's what the real ones do.
Another 65.
Going to the track, obviously, it has no meaning for Western States. Like, it doesn't matter whether I run 66s on that track workout or 72s, which is what a lot of people, like everyone on the start line that's, going for it at Western States on the male side will be able to run. It doesn't really matter that much. What it might matter is just the fact that I'm pushing my body, working on mechanical power, top-end aerobic strength, and that workout itself, not anything special. I don't want to oversell anything. But that is layered on top of doing that type of thing almost every week, since 2006.
66. All right. Next one goes to the river crossing. Mile 78. Green Gate. Mile 80. Now shit gets real.
Guys can become dudes for a day. And that only happens, though, if I'm able to run my own race and get into the specific skills I have and put the race on my terms, not somebody else's terms. Because if I try to run on a dude's terms, Eli Hemming, ultimate dude, total monster, Jim Walmsley, Killian Jornet. There's a lot of dudes at Western States. If I try to do that, like, that's not my game. My game's different. And the way that I've gotten to where I'm at now is by just, stacking brick after brick after brick over a very long period of time. Like, for 18 years, I haven't stopped. I think if you're out there, like, most people feel like I feel, which is you're painfully aware of your own limitations. That's basically what I'm getting at, right? Like, I've felt the sensations of failure so many times, not just in races, but in workouts and things. And you guys saw that firsthand, that like, I know where belief and grit run into the brick wall of reality.
$66.
But guess what happens? If you keep showing up and keep stacking bricks, you find that, oh, wait, you might actually be over top of that brick wall that was stopping you. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I ran into one at Big Alta, right? It was good to know. I'm not quite over top of it yet. But I have time before Western States.
The river crossing is so refreshing. All right, 4 more. So I've downed this whole bottle. Has 1 precision and scratch. Then high carb.
The fueling revolution doesn't just apply to ultras where I'm, fueling 120 grams of carbs per hour or whatever. That's one way to level up. But the reason that it applies at every distance, and we're seeing people get faster even in really short things, is because the fueling of the days themselves allows you to adapt faster. And so this generation's adapting faster, having longer careers, and, I'm going to be turning 37 on the start line, but I have 22-year-old legs fueled by carbs.
All right, 65 on that one. Now, it's starting to get a little grindy. That's why we're here. The only shot I have as a guy is to lean on the grind. Somehow 85 to 90. Talk about grinding. What does that feel like at 100 miler? It's honestly not bad. You just kind of settled into the feeling. Another 65. All right, I'm on 90. Last one before the last one, as Tabor Hemming says. Now is when we reach into what Ali Ostrander and I call the belief bag. Just remember, it's okay to be a guy. Just show up and give what you got. I love you guys. Thank you. $65. That close to proving myself. I'm on 95, Roby Point. Did it once before in the Canyons 100K, where my first longer ultra, I was gone. I learned a ton, but it was bad. And since then, until Big Alta, this guy had gone on a new path. So now I get to revisit it and come full circle. And now we go full oval. Not looking for a miracle. Let's just have some fun. Love you guys. '64. Woo! That was fun. Let's add some 200s. Western States is not 100 miles, it's 100.25 miles. So you can't stop it. 20 400s. If each were 5 miles, add some. Oh my God. Just a pro tip. If you're doing a track workout, always add on 4x200 at the end. It's a magic stimulus that you can't really get any other time. Your legs are already fried. You're calling on the nervous system, but the nervous system is like, new number, who this? Bam! And sometimes the adaptations we're looking for are essentially just find that edge, find something where you can just like barely tickle over the side, but without risk. And that's what this is. So, last one. And then we party. Western States ends on the track. Director Cody just reminded me. Dude, if there's a sprint at the track, I'm gonna finish second. Oh, wait, I need a little running head start for this last one. I gotta break 30. If I can't break 30 after the track workout, all the people are gonna come out of the woodwork saying, who's a 4-minute miler? Huh. Did it. 29.8. That's fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Cody. All right, let's get some fluid and cool down. A little GI training, just down all these carbs right away. 90 grams of carbs in this bottle from Tailwind High Carb.
It's fun because like at the end of the day, all of this is a game. This is play. And I don't know, for me, it's such a fun game to play in the same way that we might play football or basketball in our backyards. And
Right.
I'm where I need to be. Whether that leads to, some magical day at Western States, who knows? But I do know one thing I'm rooting for. I am rooting for it to be 120 degrees Fahrenheit at Western States. Because if it's that hard, then this guy has a little bit more of a shot of being a dude when it counts.